Hi, everyone. My name is Lena, and today I want to share something really special with you, my journey to learning English. It hasn't always been easy, but every challenge has taught me something valuable. From struggling to say simple sentences to having real conversations, I've grown so much, and I'm so excited to tell you all about it. If you're also learning English, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below and let me know what level you're at and how your journey is going. Did my story inspire or motivate you? Let me know. I'd love to connect and cheer each other on. I hope it gives you the motivation to keep going, no matter where you are in your learning process. I want to improve my English, but I always forget words. I've always dreamed of traveling the world. As a child, I would watch travel shows on TV, imagining what it would be like to explore new countries, try different foods, and meet people from all over the globe. But there was one problem. I didn't speak English very well. I had learned it in school, of course, but when it came to speaking, I always seemed to forget words or get stuck in the middle of sentences. One day, I made a decision. I was going to improve my English so I could finally speak it confidently. I enrolled in a language school in the city, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to give it my best shot. On the first day of class, I walked into the room and felt a wave of nerves. I noticed a girl sitting in the back, looking calm and confident. She smiled at me as I entered, and I quickly found a seat near her. Her name was Sarah, and she seemed so comfortable in the class. I, on the other hand, was feeling a bit lost. Our teacher, Mr. Thompson, greeted us warmly. He was a kind man with glasses and a soft, reassuring voice. After introducing the class, he asked us all to share why we wanted to learn English. When it was my turn, I said, "I want to speak English well so I can travel and meet people from different countries." Mr. Thompson smiled and nodded. "That's a wonderful goal, Lena," he said. "Let's all support each other on this journey." I felt a little better hearing that. Maybe I wasn't alone in my struggles. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of fear that I would forget words the moment I tried to speak. In the first few weeks, I worked really hard. I took notes, memorized vocabulary, and practiced my pronunciation every day. But there was one problem I couldn't shake. When it came time to speak, I froze. It was like my brain went completely blank, and I couldn't remember the simplest words. One day, after class, I decided to talk to Sarah. "Sarah, I don't know what's happening," I said, frustrated. "I study so much, but when I try to speak, I forget everything. It's so frustrating." Sarah looked at me with a kind smile. "I get it. I feel the same way sometimes. But don't worry, you're not alone in this. We all forget words from time to time." That didn't make me feel much better, but it helped to know I wasn't the only one struggling. Later that evening, I decided to speak to Mr. Thompson about it. I had to find a solution. The next day, I stayed behind after class to talk to Mr. Thompson. I was feeling a little nervous, but I had to ask him for advice. "Mr. Thompson, I've been studying a lot, but whenever I try to speak, I forget the words. It's like my mind just goes blank. I feel like I'm not making any progress." Mr. Thompson listened carefully and then said something that stuck with me. Lena, it's completely normal to forget words when you're learning a new language. That doesn't mean you're not improving. Your brain is still processing everything. The key is to keep practicing and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I felt a little better after hearing that, but I still wasn't sure what I could do to help myself remember the words. He smiled and said, "Tell me, Lena, what do you love to do in your free time? What interests you?" I thought for a moment. "I love cooking," I said, "and I really enjoy watching movies." "Perfect," Mr. Thompson said. "Why don't we focus on learning words related to cooking and movies? Learning about things you enjoy will make the process more fun and natural." That evening, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the tools and ingredients around me. I made a list of words in English related to cooking: knife, vegetables, pasta, oven, pot, and so on. The next day, I brought the list to class and showed it to Mr. Thompson. "Great job," he said. "Now let's turn these words into sentences. For example, I cut vegetables with a knife. This will help you remember the words in context." I liked the idea of using the words in sentences. It felt more practical and less like a boring vocabulary list. That night, I wrote down simple sentences for each word on my list. "I cook pasta with sauce," I wrote. "I bake cake in the oven." It was easy because I was using words that were part of my daily life. It didn't feel like studying. It felt natural, like I was just writing about things I loved. The next day, Mr. Thompson encouraged me to try something new. "Think about a conversation you might have about cooking," he said. "Write it down and then practice saying it out loud." At first, I was nervous. Speaking out loud felt weird, especially when I was all alone. But I decided to give it a try. That evening, I wrote a simple dialogue. "What's your favorite dish?" "I love pasta with garlic and tomatoes." I practiced saying the sentences out loud in my kitchen, pretending I was talking to someone. It felt a little silly, but the more I practiced, the more confident I became. Soon, it started to feel like second nature, like I was cooking and practicing English at the same time. Weeks went by, and I kept practicing with the words I loved. I didn't worry too much about forgetting words anymore. Instead, I focused on using English more, even if it meant making mistakes. One day, after class, I told Sarah, "You know, I've been practicing cooking in English. It's actually kind of fun. I don't feel as worried about forgetting words anymore." Sarah smiled at me. "That's awesome, Lena. You're making real progress." It felt good to hear that, but I still wasn't completely confident. I knew I needed to keep practicing, so I tried something new, writing down new words in my notebook and drawing small pictures next to them. For example, when I learned the word tomato, I drew a tomato and wrote, "I use tomatoes in my salad." I found that seeing the picture helped me remember the word better. It wasn't long before I had filled my notebook with little drawings and sentences. It felt creative and fun, and I actually looked forward to studying now. I knew that learning a language took time, so I made a promise to myself. I would practice English every day, even if it was just for a few minutes. I began practicing speaking to myself while cooking, walking to the store, or even cleaning the house. At first, it felt silly. I wasn't used to speaking out loud on my own, but as time went on, it became more natural. I didn't need to wait for someone else to practice with me. I was creating my own opportunities to speak, and that made a huge difference. A few weeks later, I decided to challenge myself even further. I started watching English movies without subtitles. At first, I missed a lot of what the characters were saying, but I kept trying. I would pause the movie, repeat the lines I heard, and practice my pronunciation. One evening, I watched a romantic comedy, laughing at how funny the characters were. I paused the movie several times to repeat lines that I liked. Hearing my own voice speaking English made me feel proud. I could feel myself improving with every practice. One weekend, Sarah invited me to a party. When I arrived, I saw that everyone was speaking English. I felt a wave of nervousness rush over me. What if I couldn't understand them? What if I forgot all my words? But then someone asked me, "What's your favorite dish?" I took a deep breath, smiled, and said, "I love making pasta with tomatoes, garlic, and olive oil." It wasn't perfect. I forgot a few words, but they understood me. I couldn't stop smiling. It felt so good to speak English in a real conversation. Later, I told Sarah about it. "They understood me, Sarah. I felt so proud." Sarah gave me a big hug. "That's amazing, Lena. You did it." I had learned something important during my journey. Fluency wasn't about being perfect. It was about being confident and making steady progress. Every small step counted. I celebrated every victory, whether it was using a new word correctly or simply managing a conversation. One day in class, Mr. Thompson said, "Lena, that was great. You used a new word perfectly today. Remember, every word you learn is a step closer to fluency." I smiled. "Thanks, Mr. Thompson. I'll keep practicing." Months later, Sarah and I were sitting in a cafe, chatting in English. We talked about our favorite movies, foods, and travel plans. I felt proud of how far I had come. I still made mistakes, but I wasn't afraid of them anymore. I had learned that improvement takes time, patience, and a lot of practice. It wasn't always easy, but I had learned to enjoy the process. And most importantly, I had learned to never give up. If my journey motivated you, let me know in the comments. Share your own experiences. What challenges are you facing? What are your small victories? Let's encourage and inspire each other. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tips and stories about learning English. Until next time, keep practicing, stay confident, and most importantly, enjoy the process. You've got this. See you soon. Bye for now.